Hi everyone. So in this video we will go over the logic and reference functions. So we will start with the first video with the Boolean logic and functions, and then the next one we will go with the if functions, the conditional functions using the sum if and average if and count if and so on, and then we will end with the reference functions, VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. So let's start with the Boolean logic. So what do we really mean by Boolean logic? So Boolean logic actually answers a true or false question. So we can use the and, or we don't have to use the and or, but also we can use them. So for example, we can use an and function to which basically looks at the logic or the arguments within that and function, and if they are all true, then the output or the outcome will be true. If only one out of all of those arguments within the and function is false, then the output will be false. On the other hand, for the or function, which is also a Boolean logic or function, so if at least one is true, then it will come as true. If they are all false, then the outcome or the output will be false. So let's look at some examples. So I gave you some more details here for you to read, but let's look at some examples here. So let's say if we, for the and, so both arguments, let's say that we have 1 plus 1 equals 2 and 1 plus 2 equals 3. So in this case, both arguments are true, so the output will be true. And the same thing here for or, if both are true, then the output will be true. If at least one is true, like in this case, the output will be true. If both are wrong, then it will be false. So, and this is another example when we can use the and the or. So now let's look at one example in Excel, and this file, by the way, those files are provided to you under Canvas. So the previous file that we worked with was formulas and functions. The Excel file was here, and then for the Excel file that we are working on right now, it is lecture number 3 for module 2. It is this one. So so this is the file that I am looking at or using. So let's look at one example of a Boolean logic that doesn't necessarily use and or. So let's say that I wanted to say 1 plus 1 equals 2 plus 0. In this case, both arguments are true, so the output should be true. What if I say here 1 plus 1 equals 2 plus 1? So now this argument is correct, and this one is not correct. I mean, so the 2 doesn't equal 3. So let's see what it will give us. Perfect. So it gave us the false. So this is another way that we can use logic reference. So now let's use the and functions. So as we say, the and function can have, it is a Boolean logic or function that can have more than only one argument. So we can have multiple arguments, but in this case here, let's use only 2 arguments. So I will say equal and then and then let's say I will say if this column or cell in this column equals bananas, and then remember, if it is the text data type, then I put quotation around it. If it is numeric, I don't put quotation around it. So the second argument, let's say that I want this one to be greater than this one. So basically I'm telling this function, if the product is bananas and the in stock is greater than the sold, then it should be true. Otherwise, give us as false. So now this is what it is. So we have one true because this is banana and this is also true. This one is false because it is not bananas, and those ones are not true. So both arguments are false. And this one is also false, but this one is true. So you got the idea. Now let's use the or function. So if I say an or function, So the OR function, at least one argument should be true in order for the output to be true. So in this case, so if the product equals bananas and the in stock, or in the other argument is the in stock greater than the sold, so you will see that we have more truths than the AND. So this is the only false because both arguments are false. So the 40 is not more than 40. They are equal. And then this is not bananas, this is orange. So both of them are wrong or false. That's why it brought for us false. So you get the idea. Now let's go ahead and practice. So we'll go to assessment and then we will start by practicing 3.1. So let's download this file from here and let's work on it. All right, let's enable this guy and let's work on this. So I'll reduce this guy 100. That'll be good. So now let's look at the questions that it is wanting us to, or the tasks that it wants us to perform. So it wants us to calculate the payment. Okay, payment. Okay, so basically here, and they want us to create a Boolean formula that returns true if the payment income ratio is below 43%. So what I will do, so I will say if this ratio is below 43%. So basically this is how I will solve it. Very similar to the ones that we did earlier. So then I will copy and paste it. Perfect. If it is below 43, this one is not below 43, so we put it false because it is equal to 43. So you get the idea. Now let's move on to the next one. Second one, it is asking us to calculate the down okay, so this guy, and they want us to use the Boolean formula that returns true if the down payment exceeds 10% of the loan amount. So let's put this one. So if the down payment is greater, means exceeds 10% of the loan, 10%, which is 0.1 times, 0.1 times the loan amount. So if the down payment is more or exceeds 10% of this loan amount, then it will return it as true, otherwise it will be false. So perfect. So this is how it should look like. Now let's move on to the third one. So it's asking us if the score is okay. So here we have a threshold. So score is okay, and they want us to use the not function. So if they say return true if the credit score, so the credit score here is not less than 650. So I'll just say here not. So I'll use the not. If not, the credit score less than threshold, which is this guy, and they say please be sure to appropriately use the relative versus the absolute cell references. So in this case, since I want to drag this guy downward, the same downward, I don't want it to move below the row 9. So in this case, I need to make row number or the row absolute. So this is what I will do, and then I will close this guy. So now let's look just the logic, just to test the logic. So is this amount is not less than this one? Yeah, that's true. So that's why it is true now. So you get the idea. Now let's move on to the number 4. So number 4, it says they want us to use the AND function, and they want us to return true if the payment amount and the down okay and the score okay are true. All right, so remember we said the AND function, all arguments have to be true in order for the output to be true. So what I will do here, since they are true, I will say AND I'll just select this one, comma, this one, comma, this one, and then close that parenthesis. So any of those, if they are all true, then it will be true. So which is correct. Now I'll just drag and drop. So you get the idea. Now, since we have here all true, we got true. If at least one is false, then we get false. But you got the idea. So now let's move on to the next one, number 5. So now it is asking us to use the OR function. So if they have a saving account or they have auto pay, please give them a discount as true. So in this case, this is what we'll do. We'll say OR, and then we'll select here. See, now notice the difference between this formula or this function and this one. Here we just selected the cell themselves, and the reason is because they are already true, false. True or false is part of the system. They are reserved keywords within the Excel system. So that's why we didn't say equal true. We didn't say let's say I12 equals true. So I didn't do that because the true and false, they are keywords within the system, or we call them reserved word. On the other hand, here yes or no, they are not reserved words. So I need to specify this cell equals yes, this cell equals no. So that's why I will just go ahead here and say OR, and then I will say here if this cell equals yes. So that's what they asked us here. If this cell equals yes, and remember, since yes is text, I will put quotation around it, and then comma, the argument, the second argument, this guy equals yes, and then I will close the OR function. So now, if either one, if at least one is yes, then it will be yes, it will be true. If both are no, then it will be no. So that's exactly what we have here. Because we have both no, we got false. So that's, I believe, all the questions that we have. So let's see what we scored so far. Perfect. So we got 100%. Excellent. So we'll continue.